Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multi-millionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. You all know I love sharing my secrets of how I went from $17,000 a year to a multi-millionaire. My top essential tool for managing my 2 successful businesses, plus my crazy life, is my paper planner. But not any random planner, specifically my Inner Guide yearly planner. The Inner Guide planner doesn't just organize my schedule, it helps me map out and discover my goals, dreams, self-care, and keeps my millionaire mindset on track. I want you all to get planning right away for 2019. So I arranged to get a special Inner Guide discount exclusive to my ProjectME posse. Go pick out your favorite yearly planner at inner-guide.com. And at checkout, use the code ProjectME 15% off, and you will receive 15% off your entire order. If you are driving or multitasking and can't write this down, the Inner Guide link and code is in my Instagram bio at ProjectME with Tiffany. And remember, as I always say, you are either planning for success or heading to failure. You are listening to the podcast ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. And hey, you guys, if you are listening to this episode, which I imagine if you just heard me say that, you are, do a screenshot on your phone or whatever device you're on, and then tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany so myself and today's guest can see that you are loving what we have in store for you. So I know that so many of you guys who are listening are in the beginning stages of having a business, or you have a calling to start a biz and you don't know where to start. You want to make money off your passion, but you don't really know how. Or maybe you have a business and it isn't making the amount of money or cash or impact that satisfies you. Well, I can tell you something. From my 16 plus years of marketing experience, it is typically a branding issue. Anything that is a key component to having a business means it's something that is key that could be broken and not working. And because this component of your business is so important, I made sure that I brought on an expert for you guys today to go over the do's, the don'ts, the big mistakes, the things you want to make sure you do. And I brought on someone from my own branding team. So you guys, if you guys are loving what you're seeing on Instagram and Facebook, my guest today, Jordan Duvall, had a huge role to play in that. So you guys, if you don't know who she is the founder of Ignite Your Soul brand. She has many years of experience in marketing, visual branding. Her passion is helping entrepreneurs create an authentic brand to help you profit from your passion. So she's worked with from everyone from, a solo entrepreneur to big projects like The Voice, Lord of the Rings, Star Trek. I could take up the whole episode and sharing her experience, and she's been doing it for 18 years, but we'd rather hear what she has to say, right? Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Tiffany. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be able to spend some time with you.
I mean, your intro could have taken 25 minutes with all of your credentials. Seriously.
Oh, thank you.
So you guys, this is how things work in this digital era that we're on. Okay. I saw Jordan's work that she does with other entrepreneurs online, and I was so impressed with her visual branding and everything that she does. And one of her main things that she does is she will do I call it the soup to nuts, photo and video shoot, where literally you pretty much only have to show up. So can you tell everyone, just really quick off the bat, what that whole thing is, that I did with you?
Right. Yeah. So what I did with Tiffany is my VIP brand and styling photo shoot. And, oftentimes, and, this is for 6 to 7 figure entrepreneurs because, you're getting a whole team and you're getting, full scale thing. And it's really taking a brand that has some form to it and then up leveling it. It's not starting from scratch. I do that in different ways with new entrepreneurs, but someone who's further along in business, if you're further along in business, you've probably had at least one photo shoot on your belt. And, if you know from experience, they can be stressful. You don't necessarily know. You're like, what do I wear? Where do I shoot it? Like, how do I pose? What are all these things that I do? And there's a lot of moving parts to a photo shoot. And if you've never done this before, or you're not necessarily creatively inclined, it can be really overwhelming. And I love to do it. It's like super fun for me. I'm super organized. I love to, one of my superpowers is creating order, and I'm just naturally gifted in aesthetics. And so for me, and for my years of being a photographer, I have an amazing team that I work with who I love and trust, and like they deliver. So, I'm really blessed that I've like done a lot of that legwork, years ago. And, a lot of times when people go to do their photo shoots, they do all the stuff themselves. They don't really know what to do. They show up the day of, they're kind of nervous, they're anxious. They're like tight in their photos. They're not smiling. And I have the eye for it, so I can tell, like I had, and sometimes that's part of the photographer's job, but also, when a client comes in and they're responsible for all these moving parts, their brain is like, oh my God, what do I wear next? Oh my God, should I stand over there? Or what are we going to shoot this next? Oh my God, did I forget those socks? Like, what do I put a necklace with this? So they're trying to do everything in the moment. And so their brain is just somewhere else. So they're not present. They're not thinking about how they're showing up on camera. They're not thinking about who they're serving. They're not thinking about their audience. And so you can feel that energetically in the images. And you get one chance to make a first impression, and our world is a very visual world. You have Instagram, you have Facebook, it's people talk about the scroll stoppers, like people are scrolling through Instagram. You see the images and then you read the copy. You go onto a website, you immediately, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're making an immediate judgment about someone based on what you see. And so you really get that one shot. And once somebody goes into your world and they see what you have to offer, and if it's not aligned, it's not professional, it's kind of all over the place, they immediately dismiss you and they're like, meh, not so much. I'm going to go find someone else. So when you really do the work to show up and be aligned and look professional and you pay attention to those details, people appreciate that. And because you have your brand represented on so many levels, it creates this comfort within someone and this trust, because they're like, oh, wow, I see this. And depending on their level of awareness and, skilled, vision within the visual arts, they may see that, and understand what's happening. But if they don't, their subconscious is picking up on it and they're like, wow, it's all like, it all is cohesive. There's harmony. It feels energetically positive. Like this is presenting the world that I want to arrive at. I feel at home here. And so there's a lot of the work that I do. You can see it, from a visual perspective, from an external place, but a lot of the work happens behind the scenes from an internal and energetic place.
So when you are looking at, let's say you're looking at different entrepreneurs, their online presence, and whether it is a digital entrepreneur, they have a brick and mortar business, or both, and you're just taking a look at different things, or you're scrolling yourself through social media, or just, going on various websites or whatever. What would you say are like the top 3 mistakes that you can see right off the bat, like, oh no, like I wish I could tell this girl or guy, like, this is not good? What would you say are those top 3?
I mean, the first thing is using low res images for sure. And you know who you are. You grab it off of Google and it's super small and you put it on your website and it blows it up and it's blurry, it's pixelated, and it just looks totally unprofessional. And I mean, I saw this in a restaurant one time. Like I got like fired up. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And my husband was like, you need to chill. I was like, this is like, this is crazy to me. And so I see that, but it also just tells people you don't care, right? Like, oh, using something like low res to just get by is good enough, right? And so as a consumer, as a potential client, I'm like, if they're going to present themselves in this way, then the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So that means that you're going to be sloppy and you're going to underdeliver in the work that you provide for me. And so, going to go find someone else to do it. So that's definitely number one. Number two is using stock photos. And I understand that there's a time and place in your business where, maybe you're not ready or you don't have the funds yet to invest in a photo shoot. And, not everyone needs to do a VIP photo shoot. I work with clients and I scale to where they are. Sometimes you got to DIY some stuff if you have, a lower budget. And if you have the budget, then get a team and show up and do your thing and have your hair and makeup and, just be able to be there for the day. So, there are ways to get stock photography that are higher end. They don't look like 1980s stock photos. And I go on different sites and I see like there was like one woman, she was a health coach and she had these road signs like pointing to different ways. And I'm like, why are you doing that?
Because I've seen that like 8,000 times now. Yeah, that exact photo.
Exactly. So one, everyone else is using that photo. And two, it just like, there's no personality, right? Like how can you portray your authenticity when you're not using something that is unique to you? So be mindful of that. If you are at a place where you have to use stock photography, at least find some of the more unique, maybe go with the style stock library or, I think Unsplash is a really good one. They have a lot of really good photos. Again, you're going to see those photos used all over the place, but at least that's going to be better than some of the kind of like generic kind of old school Getty style stock photos that look like it's taken with someone in a bad suit, like in an office building.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then I would say probably the third biggest mistake is typography. Now, a lot of people, there's this, there's a trend right now with these scripty fonts, which I have a scripty font in my brand and I like them. However, sometimes you can't read them. So if you understand,
I'm loving that this is on your list. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. So if you think about what is the purpose of your message, right? You convey that through a font or typography. So in order for people to understand what you're saying, they need to be able to read it. So it's kind of like digital mumbling when you can't read it, right? It's like, so you have this cool, pretty scripty font, but I can't read your headline and I don't know that your call to action says, sign up for my group now, right? Or you make them too small. So, it's all well and good when you make your one, thumbnail on Instagram and you see it big, but that's in that like, what do you get? Like maybe a 24-hour window that people care about that current post. Then it's going to live in your feed. So now it's even smaller in your feed. So you want to take into consideration that when you're doing these quote graphics, that when it gets in your feed, when it's super small and that's where it lives the majority of the time, that's going to be legible. And so you want to make sure that you're picking fonts that are sophisticated, that are easy to read, that ideally are unique to you. I mean, there's a font I think it's called Playlist. And like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it was a free font and I found it and I was like, oh my God, I'm totally obsessed with this font. And I used it for a minute in my brand. And then I went off and found something else and went in a different direction. Canva has since bought this font or used it or whatever. I don't know what their licensing deal is, but now it's one of the free fonts. I literally see it everywhere. And I'm just like, oh God, like go find other free fonts or try something different. Because again, when you're using the same thing that everyone else is using, like, why are you like, when people are making a judgment from an initial impression, how are you different?
I agree. And you guys, you can buy like my fonts. We bought my fonts and it wasn't like it broke the bank. Like I think I paid like $15. I mean, it's not like they're expensive and it's something that's like just enough, like she said, that sets you apart because so many people won't pay for it. So it's not like it's $300 to buy a font.
No. And I mean, don't get me wrong. You can totally, I've worked in entertainment for 20 years and I have bazillions of fonts and you can definitely get amazingly gorgeous font libraries and spend $1,600. But you don't need to do that, right? You can get fonts for $5. You can get free fonts. Behance.net is a creative portfolio and a lot of typography, creators will put their fonts on there and maybe you donate or, it's free. Sometimes you have to be aware that free fonts have, like the letter spacing and the line spacing can be kind of janky. I can tell a free font because usually it's janky, but again, it's like you're moving closer to, more professional in these small ways that work for where you are at in your business.
So what I know, and that's why I got so excited when she gave you guys like the third like big no-no, is the clients I work with, whether again they're huge, $1 billion or they're solo entrepreneurs, I see the mistake across the board, even if they have huge branding teams, and they get so caught up in wanting their website to look so pretty. Especially, people have want to have more of a feminine brand, so pretty with this beautiful cursive. And even if it's legible, it's taking me an extra maybe second or two to read it. And that's too much work for me. Is that crazy that I'm saying that? Or do you agree with that?
No, I totally agree with that. And there's cause I walk my, my group clients through how to choose their fonts. And, fonts have personalities like everything else. And that's the other thing too, is you have to be aware of juvenile fonts. And then just a total aside, my brother was in town the other day and we were joking about fonts because I was getting fired up about them. And I was like, I can't believe people use Comic Sans. He's like, yeah. I was like, that should just be burned. No one should ever be allowed to use Comic Sans. And then he's like, what about papyrus? And I was like, what? Nobody uses papyrus. And he's like, are you kidding me? Papyrus is everywhere. He's like, I bet you $20 that we're going to see 3 instances of papyrus while we're out this afternoon. I was like, no way. No joke. 3 instances of papyrus within 30 minutes. He's like, look at the menu. Look at the logo. Look over there. I was like, oh my God. I didn't even realize how heavily used. I mean, they use it for the movie Avatar. So, it's out there, but, and then what else? Those I think are the 2 worst offenders out there for sure, because Comic Sans is a child script and papyrus is Copperplate's kind of up there too. If you had to pick 3 never to use, I would go with those.
Yeah. So definitely you don't need to get caught up for weeks and weeks on picking a font, or to avoid these 3 mistakes, but at least, put some effort into it and, maybe spend a few bucks to set yourself apart. So what would you say, Jordan, when you have, maybe clients who are already more established or just have more of a marketing background who understand, more about how building a brand and a business works. What would you say where you're okay, they're on the right path? Because I'm sure people arrive to you at a variety of levels where they're lost, where their shit's broken, or where they're on the right path. They just need enhancements or add-ons. So what would you say? What do you look at when you're assessing how someone's branding works? What's your process?
Well, for me, everything starts with the individual. So I want to know how they describe their brand, right? And, someone who's been in business for a little while, they may still not understand how to describe their brand. I teach my entrepreneurs, and I say this on a podcast and people are like, I heard you on this podcast saying this. So I know it resonates with people. Is I see so many people and they're like, I need to get a logo or I need to get a website, and they're just starting out. And so then they go and they hire these creative individuals and they're like, can you make me a logo? And they're like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know, make me a logo. It's called Sally Shoes or whatever, right? And so they have no concept of what they want. And so the creative is like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to make something, right? So then they make their interpretation of the logo. And, depending on where you are, you may be getting someone who's probably on the lower spectrum. So, they may be kind of newer or they may not be quite as good at what they do. So they need a little bit more guidance. And so when you show up and you just expect them to read your mind and you don't give them anything, and then they're going to give you something and then you're like, I'm not happy with it. I had a woman who's joining my group this week and she was like, yeah, I listened to your podcast and I had this guy design my logo and I was so disappointed. I'm like, well, there's a 2-way street there. One, maybe they're not as skilled as they need to be to get you what you want, but also you need to be able to language and give them the tools so that they can interpret your vision. They're not creating it. You're the CEO. You're the visionary. You need to be able to tell people. So I walk my clients through understanding how to language their brand, how to get specific, how to figure out what they offer. And I help them create an entire style guide so that then they can go and hire designers or hire a photographer and they get these amazing things. I had a client do a shoot the other day, and, I kind of shared my process with her, and I guided her along the way. She got these amazing photos, and the photographer's like, normally it takes me 2 weeks to turn the photos back in. She's like, but everything was, so streamlined, and the hair and makeup was so amazing. She's like, I turned it around in 24 hours. It's like, when you do all the prep in the front end, it just makes everything so much easier down the road.
When you're looking at, other brands, or, other Instagram accounts or, Facebook, whatever that you follow, what is it that draws you to them where you're like, wow, this person has nailed their branding?
Yeah, I was actually just looking at someone today, and I was like, oh, Instagram crush. It was Danny Watson. She has the We Are the Click. And I was looking at her Instagram feed, and I was just like, wow, it's so beautiful. Like, just the brand personality, the essence that she wants to convey, this like, feminine goddess spirituality, and this, I don't know, like natural, like subdued. And you go to her feed, and it's like muted tone. She has this like kind of beigey yellow as her, quote graphic with this font on it. And, she's got a really good juxtaposition of the images. She's got, close up shots, far away shots, shots of her, shots of props. So there's like a nice texture within the feed. So it becomes really captivating and really interesting. So, I look at that, it was funny. My husband the other day was like, oh my God, Selma Hayek's feed is so amazing. And he was like going off about her feed. And I was like, he's like, it's totally perfectly curated. And I was like, okay. So then I go on her feed, and I was like, dude, what are you talking about? I was like, this is not curated. I was like, maybe there's some curation, but it's not highly
He's like
art-directed.
blinded by her hotness.
Yeah. I was like, you're just, they're like, Selma Hayek drool.
Exactly.
I was like, dude, I was like, you're so wrong. I was like, she's beautiful, and, she has like a bazillion followers, but I was like, her feed's not art directed. Like, you can tell when somebody is intentional with their feed, because you look at it and you're like, it's like in Mary Poppins when they go inside the drawing and they're like, rummaging around in the painting and sliding around here. It's like, that's what you want to do when you go to a feed and you're like, oh my God, this is magical. I just want to live in this world.
Exactly. Like, you want someone, maybe, they're seeing your post through a hashtag, or maybe a friend, tagged them on a quote, and you want them to come to your feed, Facebook page, website, blog, whatever. And you want them to go, oh, wow, like this was such a cool, photo and interesting caption. Now I want to like stalk them, and start going through their feed. You have to just look at, your social media platforms are mini websites, is what I say.
Exactly. Well, it's really the gateway. Like, I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and one of the themes that I probably talk about is I get fired up. I get super fired up about like all this stuff, because I just love it. I'm super excited about it. And I was just like, everyone thinks my website. And it's like, yes, ultimately you need a website. However, most people are not going to find you on Google just because, right? Like, they're going to be cruising around on Instagram, like waiting in line or laying in bed or like wherever, waiting at the movies. And they're going to be, just in the Explorer page or in the hashtag page, or like you said, maybe wherever. They're going to come across a picture that you put up or a graphic or something that people think is interesting. They're going to click on that. Then they're going to go to your feed. And then it's like, do I like the feed? Yes or no? If it's no, they're out and you've lost this person's attention. If it's yes,
forever, actually.
Forever.
They're not coming back.
Forever. And if they do like it, then it's like, okay, wow, this is a really pretty feed. What do they have to say? And then they go in and they read. And then if what you're talking about resonates with them, so if you've done the work, you understand what you're offering, you understand who you're speaking to, you understand what the conversation is, then they're like, ooh, I want to check them out. Like, I want to go to their website. And then they're going to go to your website and they're going to cruise around. They're going to find out what freebies you have or what services you offer or all of the resources and all that stuff. So that's really the way in. And people, they're all important, but I think people discount the importance of having a really curated Instagram feed and the power that can have and the opportunities it can open up for you.
And I don't want you guys to start like stressing out, like, well, I don't have, a 7-figure business like Tiffany. Like, I can't hire Jordan. Well, number one, she also said that she has different, levels of people, different levels of where you're at in your business. So she scales with you. That's number one. Number two, if you don't have any money, you can curate your own. I mean, you can do this your own with very, thoughtful, photos that you take yourself, even on your phone. I wouldn't use like your phone for your, website photos, but I mean,
right.
I mean, you can do this, DIY, right?
Oh yeah. And again, it's like be the best you can where you are, right? You can regram. Like I have one client and she's in the process of getting her photo shoot done and she regrams. So she's curated this whole feed that's really beautiful. And she just goes and finds other images. I helped her figure out, what her mood board was and what her brand was going to look like. So she knows what kind of images to look for. So she, that's what she's doing. Or you can, technically you're not supposed to use stuff from Pinterest because of copyright, but nobody listens to that. And then, again, you can download the stock photos and then, you can always just take an afternoon, put on a cute outfit, cruise around with a friend and, do your hair nice, do your makeup nice, wear a cute top and then, maybe a cute outfit and just go take a bunch of photos that you have and, be where you are and then evolve as you go. Like in my program, I show people the different photo shoots that I've done for myself. And I'm just like, everyone's like, I love your photos. I'm like, thank you. But it took me some learning to get to this place, right? Like you're always evolving and it's about your intention of like, I'm going to be thoughtful and intentional and want to make this something that I'm excited about and I'm proud of. And instead of just like, I'm going to haphazardly throw stuff up there and whatever, like, I don't really care about it.
So one thing that people get really caught up in, and you touched on it, are websites. And I want to get a little further into this because, and I'm also asking truly for like, my second business, ProjectME with Tiffany, because there are so many platforms out there for people to create sales pages. So you guys have heard the term sales pages, maybe a lead page, like ClickFunnels, things like that. And that's why I believe you don't have to have like this fully done, fleshed out website. So my question to you is, let's say you have someone creates a website on like Squarespace, which by the way, beautiful, or Kajabi or something like that. They create that and they're selling something. So they want to send people to a sales page. How do you keep that branding kind of cohesive with what you have in your social media platforms, with what you have maybe on your website, with these sales page platforms? It seems confusing.
Right. Well, that's a really good point, because a lot of these things like ClickFunnels or lead pages, they have, preloaded fonts. So you can't necessarily like go in and use your font. So, with my clients, I have them pick like kind of a Google font in addition to their custom fonts. So when they are going to do, something on ClickFunnels or lead pages or something in their email list, they have, that's kind of like the generic font that they can choose. So when you're doing body copy or something, it's like, well, I can't use this font. So I'm going to use this font and that's just going to be my go-to when I'm doing these other third-party platforms. Another thing you can do is if it is something that is like a headline on a sales page, you can go into Canva and you can actually make whatever the title is as a, type it out. I think you need the paid version to do a PNG unless you put it over a white background, or let's just say it's over pink or something. You could put the color pink that is going to show up as the background within the sales page and then type it out and then just make whatever the headline says, export it as a picture. And then you just import it into your platform as an image versus text.
Yeah. So you can like have touches of your brand in there, even in these kind of more restricted platforms. So what does a website really serve as a purpose? Like, it's like no one finds me through my website. And for my first business that I still have, TLC Enterprise, that's my 7-figure business. I would tell you maybe one client in 11 years has found me through my website, and the website's awful, PS. So tell me tell me what is a website? What's the purpose? Is there a purpose still?
Right. Well, I think, it's an individual choice whether you want a website or not. I think that it is a place that people can come to learn more about you. when you're starting out, I mean, I have a lot of, newer entrepreneurs that I interact with like socially or, through working with them. And they're like, I don't have a website. I can't do anything yet. And I'm like, yeah, you can. Like you like stop waiting for stuff. Keep moving forward. I booked my first, I think 3 or 4 clients before I even had a website up. So it shouldn't hold you back. It becomes a space where you can share what you're offering. You can share like affiliate links if you want to. You can share resources. You can have a freebie on there. It doesn't have to be super complicating. And I think, one thing that, cause I came to the table from a visual standpoint. So I was always like, make it look pretty. Right. And I didn't really like, nothing else existed in my mind. And then I have studied a lot in the area, and I don't consider myself a website, expert, but I definitely have a lot of experience in it. And I took this one course, and I can't remember exactly what it was called. I'd have to look it up, but there's this woman who used to work at Bing, and they used to do all these tests on the pages, and they would move stuff around on the page and test it. Like they'd run Facebook ads to it, and they would test it, and then they would figure out what's converting the best. So I think, a lot of people have this perception of what they think a website should be, but ultimately it's a conversion machine. Like you want to be converting people into leads on your email list, into customers, into calls, something along those lines. Like it's a funnel to get leads into your world.
One of the biggest offenses I see, and any of my clients listening are going to go, uh-oh, Tiff's talking about me, but I'm not going to name you. And I get how it happens, but one of the biggest offenses I see is you go to someone's website and it could be pretty as hell, but there is way too much going on. I mean, There's like 18 freebies. There's 27 different courses. There's a blog. It's so much, and it doesn't matter to me if the photos are gorgeous, it's branded, the font's perfect. What do you have to say about that? I mean, I guess in the editorial world, right, that's kind of a term like layout, like the actual visual layout. Like, do you have any recommendations on what's too sparse versus what's like so busy and why?
Right. Well, this is a good question. I actually had a call with a woman the other day who was like, I need to, she was like, I want to figure out what's going on with my website. And so I checked out her website, and, from an aesthetic standpoint, it needed some help in that area. But what was going on in the website was really confusing. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs are like, I need a website. And so they open up Wix or Squarespace or, WordPress, and they just start building out a website. And it's like trying to find treasure without the map. It's just a mess. So a website is strategic. Like that's one thing. Like I just was helping my client that just had her photo shoot. She was like, oh, what do I do with my website? And I was like, let me help you. So I sat down and I was like, all right, instead of going ping ponging all over the place, let's make a sitemap. What information? I was like, ultimately you are designing the information first, and then you figure out how you want to present it visually. So I think that's a different way of looking at it, right? So it's like, what information do you need on your website? The first thing, obviously, you need a homepage, right? That's like a no-brainer. You want an about page because that's where people go to, number one. And then you want some sort of, whether you sell a product, you need some sort of, buy my product page, or here's product information page, or an about, a sales page or work with me page. So those are kind of like the 3 main things. If you have a blog, you'd want a blog page. You don't have to have a blog. I mean, everyone's like, I need a blog. I'm like, do you want to write every day? If you do, awesome. But if you don't think you have to have a blog just because everyone has a blog. Like, is that something that you're going to enjoy? So I think thinking about it from a strategic standpoint of what is the information that I want to share with my dream client? What information is going to serve them? Is you going to have a freebie or, maybe 1, 2, or 3 freebies, depending on what it is. But like, again, your freebies are intentional. They're the entry point of your funnel. Where are you leading them? What is the end point of this journey, right? Like, and you can have back-end offers, meaning like, and I don't know where the terminology lies with your audience, but so you have your funnel, so you have a freebie, which could be, a video thing or a challenge, or it could be a PDF or a quiz or something like that. And then they're going to come into your world, and maybe they get booked into a call, or maybe they go on your email list, and then you're going to present some sort of offer to them. whether that's, a $47 course or a $10,000 coaching program or more, there's some sort of offer that you are bringing to the table. And you're like, this is how I can help you solve XYZ problem. And then behind that, you can have, like a mastermind, or, maybe if it's a group, then you have one-on-one. You can have other offers behind that in the customer journey. So it's really thinking about, what is this journey that I'm taking my client on? And you don't necessarily need to share all of those offers on your website if you're going to kind of pre-screen people by working with them first, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because when you have too many things, and I say this to people, I use comparisons, like even if you went, shopping or whatever, but if you have too much, then people are overwhelmed and they choose nothing. Mm-hmm. It's just too much. Like, you need to make it really easy for people on, maybe it's one key thing at a time. Maybe you only have, 2 freebies on there, but to have so many things, I get why people do it, because it's like, I want to offer value. Right. If I make a gazillion courses, well, then I'll make more money. Well, not really. No, right. That's not necessarily true. It's it being strategic and thought out, like Jordan said. Like, I did it the other way around, which was just picked a template, because of course I was in a rush and wanted everything done now. Shocking. And so
I suffer from rushing now problems too.
So I'm like, I want this, and and I was a spaz, and I didn't slow my roll, and I did it the opposite way, which is I picked a template, like a website template, and then filled it. What would have been smarter is what you said, Jordan, is to have my idea of, a site map and what was important to me, and then browse through all of the different templates to see what was in alignment and what matched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then like every day I'm like, oh, I want to play in my website. I was up like way too late the other day, playing with my website, and my health coach was like, you need to stop doing that. And I was like, okay, I just have to like not turn that on in my brain, because then I get stuck in the creative like hole and I'm up till 1 a.m. But so, you can go, like, if you know what it is that you want to put on your website, and what is going to be strategic. And this woman I was talking to the other day, I was like, do you want to spend all your time writing blog posts, or do you want to be earning an income? I was like, I think you're just asking the wrong question. Your focus is in the wrong place. You're spending all your time, studying your engagement and writing blog posts and adding value. But I was like, what are you selling? What's your offer? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, how do you have a business if you don't have something you're exchanging for value?
Right. So, then you have a hobby, and a very time consuming one.
Exactly. It sucks the life out of your hobby. So, and that doesn't sound like a fun hobby. So I think it's making sure that you're asking the right questions and being strategic about it. And, again, if some people are just not strategic, like part of my personality is I'm super planner, strategic, order. Some people are not at all. So don't drive yourself crazy. If that's not your thing, then keep it really simple, right? Like, just streamline it as much as possible. But again, it all comes down to being intentional, to having a reason behind what you're doing, as opposed to just haphazardly throwing something up there because you're rushed and you're hurried and you just want it out there, because then how does that serve you?
Or you look at all the, dozens of other people you follow, and you just kind of try to like mimic what they have, but they're not you, and they don't have the same business as you. Even if it's similar, it's not possible for it to be the same, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, that's a really interesting thing you bring up, because I'm actually just started taking James Wedmore's Business by Design, and I'm doing like the intro part, which is all about mindset. And he talks a lot about how to figure out, and I do this work with my clients, but it's always interesting to see someone else's perspective, because it kind of expands what I know to be true. So he talks a lot about, what is your personality type, right? And it's like different personalities have different ways that they see and interact and show up in the world. So, for me, I work really well with small, intimate groups, in masterminds and group coaching, and live events. And so, like, I have to resist the temptation of like, I want to put out $25, $47 courses, because ultimately I derive satisfaction by that connection in an intimate setting. And so that's the kind of business that I'm going to really enjoy, right? And so when you learn more about who you are and what's going to align with what you're naturally good at and how you naturally show up in the world, maybe doing a membership site, or maybe doing, a subscription box or something that's like more detached from your end user would be a better fit for you. So when you go and you look at other people and you compare yourself to them and you try and copycat them, that's why for me, like I'm all about creating an aligned brand and an authentic, aligned business and an authentic brand, because it's really getting in touch with who you are and how you show up in the world and leaning into your gifts so that you can do what you love and then you can represent yourself visually and verbally that is true to who you are and what you know, so that people resonate with your authentic soul brand.
And you might not know who you are in this particular business. Like, even though I have created and I've run a business for 11 years, ProjectME with Tiffany is very different. That's a personal brand that is digital based and, speaking at live events based brand. And I can tell, like, I'm tweaking, I'm learning who I am in this space, because there's some things that I've never actually done before. I may have done with corporations, but not individuals. And so there are some of that where you're just going to have to tweak over time and learn what you like and what you don't like, just like dating, right? You've got to kiss a lot of frogs.
Right. One, look at the red flags too. And I think,
and in dating.
I mean, I'm always learning and tweaking and improving, and always like, how can I add more value? Is this, could this be better? Should I reframe how I do this? Should I restructure how I do that? Like every day I'm always asking that question to myself of like, how can I improve this to help my people better? And I think having the awareness that question will always be there, that even once you kind of, land where it feels really good for what you're aligned with, you're still going to be like, well, how can I improve it? How can I make better? How can I scale? Now I'm going to do a team. So there's always this element of expansion. So I think letting go of that, like, maybe shame or guilt of like, what's wrong with me? Why have I not figured it out yet? You're never going to figure it out. Like, you're always going to have questions. And I think letting that go really gives you permission to just say, you know what, I'm curious to try that. Like I'm changing around a system in my business right now. And I was talking to one of my assistants today who's going to help me set it up. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm just going to try it out for a couple of weeks, see how it feels, see how it works, see if I like it. And if it works, great. I might do it for 3 months or 6 months, and then it stops working, and then I'm going to implement something else. So I think it's always having that level of experimentation, and, just sort of seeing what works for you and understanding that ultimately you know the answer.
Such a great point, because, people, will come to me as a business coach. They'll come to, Jordan to overhaul their branding or do their branding, or even figure out what's aligned with them in order to make a business. And one thing you guys have to remember is there are no guarantees in business, just like there are no guarantees in life. But what I can guarantee you is if you don't hire a seasoned coach that is, specific to what you need and someone who you jive with, that you like, that you understand their communication style. If you don't do that, you're going to spend a lot of money making mistakes, trying to navigate, figure things out, beating your head against the wall. I can guarantee you that. Like if I went back,
a lot of time too.
Yeah, and time. If I went back in time, I wouldn't have been so stubborn and in my ego where it took me 5 years before I hired a business coach. And within 8 months, my business went from 6 figures to 7 figures after hiring a coach, because I couldn't see my own blind spots. But I was like in such self-will, and I was being a cheap ass, to be quite frank. Even though I was making multiple 6 figures, I was like, I shouldn't have to hire a coach. Like I've gotten this far, but I wasn't seeing the bigger picture as well. I couldn't get any further on my own. We can only get so far on our own, and sometimes you can't get very far. You know.
Exactly. It just depends. And I mean, you've been in the space for a long time, and, you've got your own firm, and, you know the value of a brand. What changes have you noticed since you up-leveled your brand?
Ooh, I love when the guest asks me questions back. Of course, Jordan does that. I would say the changes since I've up-leveled my second company, ProjectME with Tiffany. That's what you're asking about, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The work I knew I needed to hire Jordan's company, Ignite Your Soul Brand. Like, I just knew it. That's because I trust my gut instinct and I trust what the universe brings to me. Like, I wasn't even searching like hashtags or branding companies or anything. I don't even remember how I found you, but you found, like, the universe had you find me, if that makes sense.
Right, exactly. The universe brought us together.
It was through another client of hers who's well known, but it still wasn't that obvious. It was pretty instant. And I was like, I knew I needed this. I had enough self-awareness to know and listen to feedback from people when I speak at live events. And feedback I've gotten is people go, oh, I was kind of almost afraid to stand in line and talk to you because, I was intimidated. There's a lot of words about intimidating. So I knew I needed help, like, for people to see like my approachable, softer side, because that's really who I am. And so after I, did all the work with Jordan and she created, you guys will see the videos soon. I have videos coming out too, but we went through her whole process. I would say my engagement has quadrupled.
What?
On social.
Awesome.
Yeah. My engagement has quadrupled and significantly more followers. I'm almost at 10,000, which is, as you guys know, is a key marker. And so that's awesome. But what has changed with me is I have a different level of confidence because I feel like what I'm showing you guys, I mean, I'm an excellent copywriter, like, that's my jam, but I feel like my look and feel of the brand matches me, authentically matches me. And it just gives me a great feeling of like pride and comfort and satisfaction. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I mean, like, because it's just something that I do. And oftentimes when you start a business, like I see this with my clients, is they're, kind of unsure. And you just have to build the confidence muscle. Because a lot of times when we get a business that we love and we're aligned with, it's just our natural gift. So we can't always sort of see what that is from someone else's perspective. And I've watched, I think I've had 40 clients go through my process, and I see, and as I see them go through it, I evolve it more and I expand it and I improve it and I tweak it. And, I've seen women start working with me and they're like confused and they're all over the place. Like, one of my clients just wrote me a testimonial today and she was like, I was totally lost and I was a hot mess. And I was like, I worked with Jordan and she organized me. She kept me on task. We did this like gorgeous, amazing photo shoot. It was like her and her bestie, who's a photographer. They went on like a 3-day road trip. I like planned the whole thing out. It was a Rubik's Cube, that's for sure. But it came out really amazing. Now she knows who she's talking to. She knows who she's serving. She's like ready to show up in the world and she feels so confident. And I really feel like when you get that clarity, that fuels the confidence. And I've seen it with my clients is they have this like, and I was talking to someone the other day, I was like, it's like vision constipation. It's like, you're like, it's in there. Like, you can't get it out. How do I get it out? It's like, you feel it, you sense it. And especially where we have a lot of intuitives and they know it's there, but they're like, I don't know how to get it out. And so when, I use my just natural gifts and also just my experience to give them that framework and that strategy. And then we watch it come to life. Their whole being shifts because they feel like this sense of ease because their inner world that they see is now represented in the outer world. So it's like this like through line, this flow that they step into.
Yeah. And without, I hate saying, without getting too woo-woo, like, fuck that. I'm going wherever I need to stop saying that. I've picked that up from listening to a lot of other podcasters say that. Like, I'm not saying it anymore. I declare it right now. But when you are truly aligned with whatever your business is, maybe you're a makeup artist, you're a health whatever it is, when you feel all cylinders are firing, people can energetically feel that. Even digitally, people can feel that.
Oh, totally. Mm-hmm.
They totally
energy
can.
is energy.
So how can people who are whatever level they're at, like learn more from you or get more exposure to you? Like what's the best way for them to get more Jordan?
To get more Jordan. Well, if you want more Jordan, I do regular lives in my Facebook group. And that is, if you just Google Facebook, Ignite Your Soul Brand, or you can go to my website, it's on there. So that's a good place. If you want feedback and regular interaction, I'm in there every day. My Instagram is @IgniteYourSoulBrand, and my Facebook page is @IgniteYourSoulBrand. And then my website is jordanduvall.com. So you can go there. You can learn more about, what I'm about. I've got podcasts on there. I've got business resources. I have a soul brand quiz. I have a authentic brand masterclass. So I have some really good, free content in there for you to share. And, if you're interested in working together, my group program would be a really good fit to, bring this vision to life so that you have that confidence and that clarity and you tap into that flow and that energy. So you really create a brand that opens the door to opportunities for you that you could never imagine.
Really quick. So for people who don't know, what does a group program look like with you?
Well, a group program, they can be totally different. I've joined group programs where there's like 1,400 people in the Facebook group, and that's cool. I've come to learn that I'm more introverted than I realized. I don't mind being in those groups, but I find them very overwhelming, and I think I pick up on a lot of the energy, and so I'm just kind of like, ee. So for me, it's much more about like an intimate group where I can be more high touch. I do one-on-ones. I have a team. I have an NLP coach on my team who works with my clients to work on all the mindset stuff. I had an amazing guest speaker who, helped me out when I first launched. She did when I did my beta, she did like a training within my group, and like every single woman, when they did the feedback form, was like, I love Tracy Litt. And I was like, okay, cool. Good to know. And Tracy's now one of my good friends. And I was like, Tracy, everybody loves you. Like, would you come in and be a mindset expert? So now I'm starting next month. We're going to do monthly mindset calls. And then I've got some other things I'm cooking up my sleeve. So, to be able to really offer as much value as I can to my clients to give them the biggest transformation possible in the least amount of time. Because why not just do this thing and get out there and like make it happen?
And do it with someone that has many, many years of expertise guiding you, who's been there and done that. That's what I definitely want to end on is, you wouldn't, well, at least I hope you wouldn't. Maybe you would. Like, you might be like someone, you use a lot of dating analogies, might be using, you might be swiping right, but like, I would like to think that you would at least like have some interaction before you would like meet someone on a date. It's no different when you're hiring a coach or entering a group program. Like, go to their Instagram feed, read their captions. If they have a podcast, listen to a few podcasts of theirs, and kind of like do what you would do if you had, you have someone's full name before you go on a date. Like,
Exactly.
Like make sure there's not a warrant out for their arrest, exactly. Or that they aren't in like $100,000 of debt. Not that those are from my personal storyline at all. Anyway, so
we live and learn, right? We're always growing.
So make sure you look at that. And also, there's such value in someone who's done it for so many years because they've made a gazillion mistakes. They've made a lot of wins. So they have a lot more case studies, right, to go off from.
Yeah, I've got a lot of failure that I can save you from.
So let's end with one of my favorite questions, which is, what is one of your biggest business mistakes that you made? And of course, hindsight's 2020, but looking back.
Looking back, well, similar to your experience with waiting 5 years to get a coach, after, I was in the industry and entertainment for 5 years, and I had this opportunity to do, an art project for a well-known celebrity. So it was, enough that I could, and I was like in my late 20s, single. I was just like, I don't need a lot. So I was able to leave my job and I traveled around the world, and, I did that for 13 months, and I was kind of like an early digital nomad. And then I came back and I was just like, I can't deal with sitting at a computer and a desk all day. So I wanted to, ultimately I really wanted to be a photographer, but I was scared because, it's a lot of responsibility to be the photographer. So I went to school and I studied makeup artistry, and then through that, I was like, I really want to be a photographer. Stop hiding. So I went back to school. I learned, relearned lighting, learned lighting from a new perspective. And I was stubborn. I wasn't coachable. I didn't want to ask for help. I thought I could figure it out for myself. My husband was like, you need to figure out, what your style is and who you're targeting. And I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. But I thought that if I just kept pushing, I could figure it out for myself. And, if I did another test shoot, it would work out. If I didn't, and I was making progress, but it was snail's pace progress. And because I wouldn't accept help and I didn't just bow down and say, I will do whatever, just follow, give me instructions and I will follow. And my business didn't work out. Photography is a very expensive business and it was a lot to invest in all the different equipment and the lenses and the test shoots and all that stuff for portfolio. And, I reached a place where my husband was like, look, we can't continue on like this where you're not, pulling your weight basically and bringing in money in the family. And I was just like, and he's like, he didn't really finish the sentence, but I knew what that meant. And so I basically had to give up on my photography dream because it wasn't working. And so, serendipitously or whatever, the universe brought in, I think it was a couple months later, I got a call from one of the best advertising agencies that was like, the owner wants to see your book. And I was like, oh, when the owner of that agency calls, you go down. So and it was a really great opportunity. And, it took my career in another way. So, I believe in making, lemonade out of lemons, but, giving up on my dream really crushed my soul in a really deep, fundamental way to the, I haven't really picked up a camera. I was talking to a woman, I did a podcast interview earlier and she was like, oh, you shoot all your shoots, right? And I was like, no, I don't shoot any of them. I was like, I used to, but I play a better role because I understand all the moving parts and I've had much more experience to be the one that's creative directing and producing it. I was like, and I didn't get into the emotional side of it because the conversation just didn't go that way. But, I had to give up on my dream and, it really changed me. And I know what it's like to want to create a business so badly and not do what is necessary to make it work and get out of your own way and watch it fail, crumble and burn, and your soul die and live in that space of guilt and shame and pain and hurt and have to reignite that fire within myself and reinvent who I was. And, there was a lot more personal growth that I had to go through in that process to get to this place, but, came out the other side. And when I got this, urge to create, I was like, I've had this urge to create my own business for my whole life. And I've just not stepped up to it. And when that urge finally kind of rekindled after I went to a Tony Robbins event, I told my husband, I was like, I have to get a coach. It's really scary for me to make that investment, but I'm not going to fuck it up again like last time. And that's I learned from if there's one thing I can say positive is I learned from my mistakes after making a lot of them.
Yep. We have similar, there's a similar thing. It's stuck in that self-will, that ego. Yeah. I have to be the one to figure it out. If I'm not the one, that means I'm an idiot. I'm a failure. Right. I'm a whatever, fill in the blank. And no, it's actually, you're an idiot if you don't ask for help.
Yeah.
Because what's going on here? Facebook wasn't just one person, you know what I mean? You think of some of the largest companies, it wasn't just Bill Gates with Microsoft,
everything is a team.
It takes a team. Well, it was such a pleasure having you on. I loved having you on, Jordan.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. It's so fun to be able to connect and hang out.
So if you guys love this episode, please take a screenshot and tag Ignite Your Soul Brand and ProjectME with Tiffany so that Jordan and I know that you loved it, and let us know what you learned, and feel free to DM me or direct message Jordan with any questions on anything that we talked about today. I know she personally answers all of her messages just like I do. All right. Bye, Jordan. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.